Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar for our second call. I'm here with Joanna Walker from the University of Southampton, and she will tell you everything you need to know. Joanna, it's your.
Thank you, Anthony. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this webinar on the application process for SCIFI, that is the Smart Cities Innovation Framework implementation for our second call. The purpose of today's webinar is to really, as I say, discuss the actual application process. What we won't be talking about today is the individual challenges in any detail. We will obviously go over them. We will obviously tell you where to get more information and how to access further information from the individual cities afterwards. But really, we're going through the application process and what you can expect from us and what we would need from you to apply for SCIFI in round 2. So the Smart Cities Innovation Framework implementation is an Interreg 2Cs programme, which is a consortium of 8 partners from the Netherlands, Belgium, France and the UK. It includes, as you can see, 4 cities, Mechelen and Bruges in Belgium, Delft in the Netherlands and Saint-Quentin in France. As well as those, we have a number of other partners. We have Cambridge Cleantech, Agoria and Faubourg Numérique, who are all bring extensive networks, knowledge and acceleration and startup support. And the University of Southampton, where I'm from, is a knowledge partner working on the open innovation and open data side. So the core of the innovation framework implementation is an accelerator which partners mid-sized cities and their public sector challenges and their open and some shared data with smart startup businesses who have the solutions and the technical capability to solve those public sector challenges and create practical, sustainable solutions for city challenges. And at the core of that is the idea that startup businesses and SMEs get to work closely with individual cities to create a pilot for their public sector challenges. But we develop city clusters so that those startups and SMEs can present their solutions to other cities who may have similar issues facing them. So again, we're funded by the Interreg 2Cs programme, and this is our second open call. We will welcome questions. It's fine to go at the end, but if there are any questions as we go on, again, about the process, not about the specific challenges, I'd be very happy to answer them. So the call is open. That's the period that we can accept applications in and that we can give you information on the challenges, is open from July the 1st to October the 1st, 2019. I think the cutoff time is quite important, is 12 o'clock, 12 noon CEST, so European summertime on October the 1st. We have 9 different smart city challenges. There's an online application through F6S, which some of you may be familiar with, that we need to receive by noon on October the 1st. After that, we will have remote interviews for the shortlisted companies. And in the guide for applicants on the site, you will be able to find out exactly how we will create that shortlist. Essentially, what we are looking for each part of the application. After the shortlisted companies are accepted and have created contracts with the cities to develop their pilots, there will be an experimentation period of 6 months. That's involvement in a virtual accelerator where you will work closely with your city or cities to create the pilot. During that time, we will obviously do training and support. There is up to €10,000 of financing, and we will also be, as I said, promoting your solution and your products and services to other cities with similar issues and challenges facing them. So those 9 challenges, this in this round is we have one about sustainable commuting to industrial areas. This is promoted by Mechelen. They have industrial zones in the north and the south of the city, and they want to ensure that people can access those industrial zones in a sustainable way. Delft are eager to find out more about their housing stock and how they can create housing for the future that ensures mobility, that ensures mixed stocks of housing, meeting today's and tomorrow's housing needs in Delft. Saint-Quentin want to optimise their pedestrian flow in the city, especially to optimise throughput for the retail and commuter areas. We have one with Mechelen again, which wants to improve access to shared and sustainable transport for excluded groups. Those groups particularly are the elderly, who sometimes have issues accessing sustainable and shared mobility as a service solutions. And for more vulnerable groups with lower income, how can they access shared mobility, including and specifically cargo bikes? Bruges are keen to develop sustainable and multimodal transport for short journeys. That's journeys under 7 kilometres, especially in their city centre, and not just for residents. This is for anybody entering the city centre, so tourists, healthcare professionals going to see clients. Delft have had huge success with encouraging cycling, especially amongst their vast student population, but now they want to improve the bicycle flows to ensure that all the bicycle flows are not cramming up certain thoroughfares through the city, and to ensure that students and other cycle users are taking the best and most effective routes. Saint-Quentin again want to improve their parking. Specifically, they have good parking. They want to improve access and availability, and also reduce the number of non-allowed, should we say, parking incidents where people maybe are parking cars where they shouldn't be, or inappropriately or in any way snarling traffic up with incorrectly parked cars. And Delft again wants to look at their cleanliness facilities. I think this is Delft's, apologies. And Bruges, the last one, they want to optimise their movement of local authority vehicles, especially, again, those to do with waste management. So those are the challenges that the cities would like addressing, that they want to work with startups and SMEs to address. What can we offer? So again, up to €10,000 to support the pilot or proof of concept or minimum viable product, an opportunity for a full solution implementation for successful pilots, co-creation with and full access to and support from cities and stakeholders. And we've been doing a lot of work in cohort 1 on what's the most effective way to work with startups and SMEs to create successful pilots. So in this round, I think you can benefit from a lot of our learning on that. We have, as I say, a 6-month business accelerator, including training, advice, and mentorship. We have dissemination opportunities amongst peers and cities. We'll introduce you to other cities, to investors, and to mentors. We will provide access to hardware and equipment such as sensors. The cities fund that. They obviously then own the sensors, but that's a fairly non-painful way to access sensors and sensor data. And of course, the key part of this is access to data, some of which is open, but some of which is not open, and the cities can share directly with the successful SMEs. So what can we fund for? This is obviously an Interreg program. It's EU money. We have to be very clear on what it can be spent on and who we can fund. So we can fund the prototyping of a solution to a SCIFI challenge. In the budget, you can include such things as salaries, travel. Obviously, if you are not co-located near the city you end up working with, that may be quite a lot of travel. Consumables, some subcontracting costs such as marketing, training, legal support, and indirect expenses. Obviously, the budget for the pilot may well be higher, but we can only finance up to €10,000. And if your budget is lower than €10,000, we will finance the amount you need. Equipment for the pilot, again, if sensors are required, the cities will purchase them in close cooperation with the SME. So who can apply? Who is eligible? Startup students and companies that have a solution. And the really crucial part of that, we're open to university groups, to all kinds of groups, but they must be part of a legal entity. You need to be established in the EU 28 countries or Horizon 2020 associated countries. You can look those up on by Googling Horizon 2020 associated countries. There's a list of that. We do need to fund single entities rather than consortia, and the company must be incorporated when we sign the contract. So that is really, if you're thinking about applying but not currently within any form of incorporated company, that gives you till December to finalise the incorporation. And the guide for applicants, which gives all details, it shows, it has a copy of the form, the application form that's going to be an F6S. There is an F6S, but it gives you a copy you can print out with all the questions. Is at smartcityinnovation.eu/apply. That smartcityinnovation.eu is the website for SCIFI, and that's a good place to start if you have with your initial questions. So, as I say, visiting the website is your first point of call. We have extensive FAQs on there, and also you can see some information about last year's challenges. There's updates on pilots. I'm not sure whether they're live yet, but they will be, and what we've been working on this year, how we've been working on them. You can obviously always email us at hello@smartcityinnovation.eu. You can follow us on Twitter. We're at smartcityinov, and we'll be having many upcoming events. We will put online. In fact, there's several things you can look at now which will help you develop your challenge. The first is that alongside the descriptions of the challenges, you can find videos with representatives of the various cities discussing in kind of more informal language the challenge that they're facing. You will also be doing kind of video overviews of those challenges with more detail, more specific detail about them that we'll put online later. So I've rattled through that at top speed. I hope I've given you enough detail. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Joanna. So I have put the links, the useful links in the chat. So for example, you have the guide for applicants, the platform F6S, and also more information about the challenges. So you've got all the challenges, and also I'll put one example of videos, the one from Esther and the bicycle flow challenge in Delft. If you have any questions to ask Joanna, now is your time. Use the chat facility on the right, and she will answer your questions.
In the meantime, I want to say, obviously, as this second round, we've been working in the first round on developing our ways of working. So it's very much, we're very keen to be supportive to any SMEs who apply, and this is very much about developing a relationship that's not that common, that's directly between SMEs with innovative ideas, who it's often very challenging for, especially mid-sized cities, to procure innovative solutions and to develop their own ideas in this way. And so it's really important that we support that. And I think you find it, anyone who's interested in applying, interesting and supportive environment where we're really trying to enable a relationship between mid-sized cities and SMEs that maybe hasn't always been that easy in the past.
I've got a question here.
Yeah.
Well, you started answering this question actually, but someone would like to know about last year's call, how it went and how many applications were selected.
Okay, so last year we had slightly fewer challenges. We ended up, I think, we ended up working on 5 challenges, but with 7 companies. So in a couple of cases, so for instance, both Mechelen and Bruges, I think, don't quote me on this, had air quality challenges.
Yeah, that's correct.
And good, hooray. And one company worked with both Mechelen and Bruges, but Mechelen also worked on its air quality challenge with another company. So we're not just selecting necessarily one company to address each challenge. We're, selecting the most interesting solutions, the most appropriate solutions. Last year we had 2 challenges that we didn't find any appropriate companies that we could work with. This year I hope we've been smarter about our challenges and been better at picking ones that we think are more likely to produce excellent data-driven innovation solutions. But the hope would be with our 9 challenges to have at least one company working with each of the cities on all those challenges. So at minimum 9 companies would be our hope.
Yeah, and to complete your answer, I had a discussion with Faubourg Numérique, and this year, according to what was selected last year, we can go up to 18 companies, well, legal entities selected up to, so that doesn't mean we will select 18, we'll select the best of the applications, but we can go up to 18. I've got another question.
Yeah.
Is there any expectations around the solution being, does it need to be citywide or just, for example, at the scale of a building?
Oh, interesting. This would entirely depend on what the solution was and what it was addressing. So if it was practical, the only thing that was practical in 6 months was produce it in one particular area with a plan for scalability and reproducibility, were it to go further, then that makes absolute sense.
Okay. Gregorio is asking if there were any full solution implementation from last year's project. So the answer is not yet, because they are finishing that pilot phase right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joanna.
No, that's absolutely right.
And is there any funding for that, or they have to negotiate new independent contracts with new partners? So I'll take a go at this one.
Okay.
So there's a first 10K available to pay for salaries and travel for the pilot. And as Joanna mentioned, if there's equipment to be purchased that can be done by the city, there needs to be a negotiation between the SME and the city, but it's not inside those 10K. And if the pilot is successful and both the SME and the city are happy about it, there can be a full implementation phase, and there's extra funding available for it.
Yes, this would be, it's not SCIFI funding. It would be, at that point, you'd be entering a relationship with the city directly, not intermediated with SCIFI, although SCIFI have supported that relationship by developing appropriate contracts for use in this position. Because of course, as I'm sure pretty much anyone who's listening who's working with an SME is aware, it's EU rules around procurement and procurement of innovation that have generally been quite tricky. So we've done a lot of work on that to facilitate the ability for medium-sized cities to work with innovative startups.
Elisa is asking if there's any restrictions on the technological solutions that might be used to solve the challenges. Not that I'm aware of.
Well, I mean, it has to be something that can be implemented within 6 months. Is the key part of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, some cities have greater and lesser requirements for interoperability. The more, for instance, Saint-Quentin has fairly high automation on certain systems already, and therefore requires a much higher level of interoperability in order to work with their existing systems. Other cities that might not be so necessary because there is nothing to be interoperable with. So it entirely depends on which city and which solution as to whether there are limits on the technology that can, or requirements on the technology that can be used. We do have a FIware base in SCIFI. We do require data sets to be published on FIware, but there is a variety of technical solutions being used.
Yeah, I can share the data portal link as well. Maybe it can be useful.
Yeah, that would be great.
Data portal. Gregory, I didn't really understood if there would be other funding or not. Sorry. For the question was for the full implementation.
That's between the city. It's outside SCIFI. If the city can chooses to go for full procurement, they can.
Is there any other question? Don't forget that you can contact us if you don't have a question now, but you need to have a look at the website and gather more information. You can always contact us at hello@smartcityinnovation.eu. I understood that SCIFI would facilitate the process and that there would be other funding, but independent from SCIFI. Yeah, exactly. So that's up to the city and the innovator to see if the pilot phase was successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and also if the pilot is successful, all the cities there are in contact with other cities with the same shared challenges, and they will introduce the solution to other cities. So that's exactly a way for you to be promoted and for your solution to be promoted to other cities. So that's not actually just, so you collaborate with one city for the pilot, but then if your solution is successful, you can implement this in different cities.
Yeah.
Hi, Joanna, do the data sets need to be all data collected during pilot, even internal, or just the one which is significant?
Oh, sorry. I might have to have that reworded. Do you mean, do the data sets that we publish, or?
So I'll just read it again once more. Maybe Isaac can specify a bit more, give us a bit more details. Do the data sets need to be all data collected during pilot, even internal, or just the one which is significant?
So let me try and go through what happens with the data sets. So the process is that initially a city will have a certain number of data sets that are open. Some are from the city, some are for other parts of the country, or for the whole country, that are open, that they envisage might be useful in the solution. Then they have currently closed data sets that they also envisage might be useful in the solution. And the opening, the sharing of those data sets to the successful SME is then part of the negotiation process. Ultimately, those data sets, once used in the solution, may then go on to become open, or they may not go on to become open. Any data that is collected in the process of, for instance, a sensor-driven solution will belong contractually to the city. Any data that is proprietary to the SME is still proprietary to the SME. Does that help?
So I'll let Isaac respond to that. If there's any other question in the meantime, please do not hesitate. If there's anything unclear. Yes, okay, that helps a lot.
Okay, great. And of course, it's perfectly possible. The city, it entirely depends on what the solution is for and what's addressing and what sensor data being collected. It may be very easy for the city to say, okay, we retain ownership, or rather not ownership, because one's not really allowed to own data. We retain our interest in the data and the control of the data. However, you may use this data set for your other purposes for whatever reason you like. Other data sets may be very, very sensitive and contain personal information that they don't wish to have continued to be used by the SME after the end of the acceleration process. So this is very much kind of a negotiation that we can do before the beginning of the accelerator.
Well, if there's no other question, we might close the webinar.
Yes, we'll just say good luck. Please do ask us any questions.
Another question here. Do
Okay,
the solutions need to be targeted only to the challenges, or can solve other things at the same time?
Wow.
Well, if in 6 months you can answer all the challenges, go for it. That's for sure. You'll be the winner.
Yes. The issue really here is that we are time bounded and not resource unconstrained. So if, for instance, well, here you go. Here's a good example. So Saint-Quentin want to do a waste kind of collection optimization project solution, and they're focusing on ashtrays. And they're mainly focusing on ashtrays because that's their current problem and their current data set. However, ultimately, yes, they do want a solution that's also going to be able to deal with litter bins and dog waste and other forms of public space litter. So if within the 6 months, all the larger problem can be dealt with, that's obviously perfect. They've just constrained it to ashtrays because they're concerned that they may not be able to deliver on the other things in that time. But if the SME comes and says, we're sure we can do this, don't worry, then that's obviously going to make them happy, I would have thought. Does that help?
Yeah, I believe so. Eva here, or Iva, sorry for the pronunciation, is asking at what point the cities get involved in selection of the solutions. I believe it's just after they applied on the F6S platform, right?
Yeah, immediately. So as soon as it's closed, lunchtime on October the 1st, all the cities and all the other partners, the business advisors, the knowledge partners, review the challenges. And then we have 2 or 3 reviewers per challenge. Everybody goes through it. They write down their comments. We meet together. We discuss what's the most appropriate, who we want to take through to interview, and take it from there.
Yeah, Isaac is saying he was meaning not all the challenges, obviously, but different things, and also the challenge, of course.
Okay.
Sounds great. Thank you. Okay. Thanks for your questions. I'll leave it. I'll give you a few, like 1 or 2 minutes to see if there's any other question, and then we'll probably close the webinar.
You can always send them to hello@smartcityinnovation.eu.
Yeah, so again, I'll write it down. If there's any question that you might have in the future, please do write us an email at hello@smartcityinnovation.eu. I will receive it myself, and if I cannot answer the question myself, I will just ask the cities or Joanna here to help me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you ever so much for your interesting questions and for being here. And we really, really look forward to hopefully receiving all your applications.
Yeah, thank you, Joanna, for presenting, and we'll see you in a bit.
Thank you, Anthony.
Bye-bye.
Bye.